Welcome to another installment of the Library Management Institute series. I'm Kearni Warren, and today I'm speaking with Anne Frank, who is the Library Director at the Wissahickon Valley Public Library in Blue Bell, Pennsylvania. Anne, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to speak with us today.
You're welcome. Happy to do so.
Thank you. So first, I'd like to talk to you about what goes on here at the library. How would you describe the library, and what would you consider to be its greatest strengths?
Well, we're a very community-centered library, so we believe in a lot of educational events. We just hired a new community outreach coordinator, and her job is actually going to be to go out into the community and talk to members and find out what they need, especially in underserved population areas, so that we're actually bringing what they need, whether it's help with resumes, whether they need homework help for their children, ESL classes, whatever those kinds of programs are. So we're very educational focused. Our greatest strength really is the staff, that we have a group of wonderful people who want to help their neighbors, who want to help people learn and have great customer service. These days, what we're trying to do is a lot larger events. We've grown into, in the past 8 years, we've increased the number of events that we have by large percentages. So now we're trying to get into bigger events and have nationally known authors. Like in the past, we've had Mary Higgins Clark or Matthew Quick, author of Silver Linings Playbook. Upcoming, we have a big author in November, and then we're looking for a big author in April as well. So we're starting to collaborate with other libraries and do larger scale programs.
You are a well-respected library director among your staff and peers. What would you consider to be your major priorities in terms of managing the library?
Oh, right now, that is definitely staff training. There are so many different technological devices, so many different types of tablets, so many different types of phones, and trying to train the public on how to access our e-books and our resources and our e-audiobooks and our e-magazines. I have to be able to train the staff to do that. And so that is one of the hardest things to do right now. So we're trying to set up a basic staff competency program and then move forward with additional education. And we're looking at different models of doing that right now.
A great working relationship between the staff and the library director is essential. What do you think makes your approach work so well?
Ours is definitely a team-centered approach. We believe in bringing together the people that are involved in a project, get everyone's ideas, get everybody's input, so everybody's on board as we're going through the process. And then we have the right people to make it a successful program. So when everybody's in that room and we're all working together, it just seems that we have the best results.
When a library is facing a major change, such as a new building, embracing a new approach to displaying materials, new policies, etc. What is your advice on introducing the change and managing the change so that it's accepted by your staff and customers?
Well, it's super important to tell all the staff as you're thinking about, one, they want to know the reason for the change. Are you changing just for change's sake, or is there a good reason? How is it going to benefit them? How is it going to benefit the public? So you have to find out what are their concerns, and sometimes they're rooted. People really fear change, and they're worried about it, and they're wondering, what's going to happen to my job? If we put in a self-checkout station out there, are you going to then fire people at the library? Which in our case is certainly not the case. We have so much circulation to do, and we need so many volunteers to do it, that we actually need those so that those people can go out and do higher level work while people are checking themselves out. So it's really important to get people on board with that change, and then give them the training that they need to accept the change and focus on it, and then they might be your biggest supporters.
What characteristics do you look for when hiring new staff members?
That's a great question. We just hired a new community outreach coordinator, and I'm interviewing next week for a new Ambler branch manager. So you want all those typical things, organized, motivated, but what's really important to us is they fit into our team-centered approach, that they're really enthusiastic, they want to help the public, they like people. A lot of times you'll talk to people who work in libraries, or why they want to work in libraries, and they say, I love books. And I look at them and say, you have to love people. You're helping people, you're working with people. Books are just one of the things at the library. So really having that enthusiasm, the energy, the passion for wanting to help people, the excitement, and all the desire really to really want to help people, I think, and work as a team are the biggest characteristics.
How did you begin your career in library management, and is there a specific path that new employees should take?
Yeah, actually it's funny. The first time I worked in a library was for my mother, who ran a small public library in Hastings, Pennsylvania. Whenever she'd go to a doctor's appointment, she would have me take care of the library. It was a tiny little place. But I actually wanted to become an English teacher, so when I got my English teaching degree, I ended up moving to Prince George's County, Maryland. And they put me in the media center, and I loved it so much that when I went to get a master's, I got it in library science. It was a great scholarship program, and I was lucky to get it. It seems that a lot of librarians come to librarianship from other fields. It's few and far between that people seem to know that that's what they want to do in their undergrad. I think that I have one staff member that knew that. Everyone else, and most every other librarian, comes to it from a different array, which makes it a really interesting group. People are from sociology or history or business. One lady that we just hired from architecture. So it's a really wide open field. So it's easy to pull people into that. But there's no defined path except for you need to get your Master's of Library Science. I really recommend taking any management courses. That was my only elective in my library science degree, and it was the most useful one that I took. So taking any type of management classes will really be helpful. Also, for anyone starting out, reach up. I just advertised a position for an Ambler branch manager, and we want someone with a little bit of management experience, but definitely a few years working in a library. If you don't have it, shoot for it anyway. Try. Convince them that you're the person, that you have the knowledge, even if you don't have the experience. That's what they're looking for, someone that's enthusiastic, energetic, and that wants to make a big difference.
What challenges do you face sometimes as a library director of a small suburban library with 2 branches, and how do you resolve those issues?
I'd say time management is by far the biggest one. Everyone is so overwhelmed. We have so many new initiatives coming out, so much new things going on, that it's hard to get through the regular things, much less do things like, say, disaster planning, which everyone's a big focus for everybody now, or trying to create the new staff competencies, which is a new endeavor. So it's really time management. So we find that we do strategic planning, and once you get the objectives into the strategic plan, and then you add those into everybody's goals and objectives each year, instead of a traditional performance evaluation, which everybody hates, instead we just write goals and objectives. So staff members write goals that they have for the year, and I'll write goals. We'll sit down and discuss them, and then the next year we discuss how did those go? What did we do based on that? So once we've taken those strategic planning objectives, added them into the staff members, then you see movement. So you have to be organized that you don't leave those pieces out, otherwise you'll never get to them.
Sounds like you're focusing on the strengths versus the weaknesses.
Absolutely. With your staff, it's amazing. I mean, the ladies and gentlemen that work here that have the different degrees that they have, they can do programming for us, for the educational events. Sometimes we had a person that worked at the circulation desk. She had an accounting degree, so when I came here, we put her in the bookkeeping department. We've never had better books. So it's amazing. It's finding the strengths of your staff members and utilizing those in whatever ways, giving them a chance to do continuing education in those areas. Because if they're happy and they enjoy their job, that's what they're going to spread to the public as well.
How do you determine what your customers really want from the library, and how do you then use that information to deliver on their expectations?
In our last strategic plan, we did the typical patron survey. If we do this, will you come to this, and list out the programs? And we found that with a big list like that, it didn't always encompass everything. It seemed like people checked the similar things that they always would want to do. So one of the ways we've done that recently is we reached out to the Hispanic community in Ambler, and we were wondering what kinds of things they might need from us. And our board members thought maybe they would like the library to be open on a Sunday, because oftentimes people work 6 days a week and that's the only day they have off to come to the library. So we went out to the community and talked to them, and what they said is they wanted ESL homework help for their kids because they were just learning the language themselves and they couldn't help their kids with their homework, and that's what they would like. So that's what we planned for them, and it's been a great successful program. And based on that success, we want to reach out to other groups, go to the faith communities, nonprofit groups, churches, and find out what are their actual needs. How can we work together, not just to teach them something, but to solve their needs and problems and bring them what they really want. We're here for them.
Sounds like you are really, the library is really focused on direct outreach to the community versus focusing on what a library should be and the services that are usually automatically created for library purposes. But you are actually building the rapport with the community, seeing what they truly want, and then delivering on it.
Yeah, that's absolutely our goal. The traditional libraries with books, they're always going to be here. People love to read print. People of all generations. I read online magazines, but I typically read print before I go to bed. So I think that juxtaposition is always going to be here. But what's different is people want a third place. You have your home as first place, you have your work as your second place, but they want a third place, a place to come out and hang out, to study, to socialize with their friends, if it's seniors watching a movie or if it's for yoga class. They want that third place to be. So you have to kind of go out and find that. And with community outreach, we also like to participate in those outdoor events, whether they're, parades, or we go to the YMCA, or we have an activity at the Senior Adult Activity Center. This week, our question and answer or tech Q&A session will go to Lower Gwinnett Township and help teach people how to use their smartphones and their tablets. So you have to go out to where they are. Sometimes that's scary at first with your employees, but the more and more we get technology that assists us. Like right now we have iPads, and we've taken our circulation system and they have a new version that's fully available on the iPad. So we can take that out and circulate stuff to people or get them signed up for a library card on site. So there's a lot of new tools that are going to let us do even more of that.
You talked about some of the activities here that are not, that don't necessarily correlate with your traditional library. Can you tell us what more of those services that you offer here?
Well, some of the newer things, like even in collections, we offer museum passes, and they're one of the best circulators. So any museum that is willing to, but I think right now we probably have 15 or 20, whether it's a helicopter museum, a battleship, whether it's the Penn Museum downtown, the National Liberty Museum. But it gets people coming, and not only do they come here and get a pass, but then they go into the city, and then that museum gets people coming down and using, and they come back and they tell their friends. So it not just publicizes us or just gives them what they need, it's good for all the parties. So if we found that the more we're actually networking, and we're instead of just asking people things to do for it, like talk to a business and say, would you give us this donation for something? Instead, promoting the business. What can we do for the business? How can we help them do well in the community as well? So like we've had a National Library Card sign-up month, and we would get businesses in the area to give 5% off to people if they presented their library card. But it sent a bunch of people to their business so that they would get more business. So we're always looking at our networking and doing our programming like that so that everyone gets a great result and we can work together as a community.
How do you measure a new initiative, determining if it's working?
That can be one of the hardest things is measurement. Traditionally, libraries had how many people attended the program? Did people say they liked it? Or you might have a little evaluation form. Did they say they liked it? It's hard to see the needle move. We joked around the other day about if you had a gardening program, if they showed back up and they brought you tomatoes, then that was a good program because they actually went home and did something. But it can be really tough. So sometimes it's garnering the public support that comes back from it, the press that gets covered, people coming back to you saying they want you to do more programs like that, and the really heartfelt things. So sometimes for some of those programs, it's more important to get the stories from the people that came and had something meaningful happen. So sometimes it's going back to those people later and asking what they got out of that program, and then did they take it to another level.
Over the course of your career, you've worked in different sized libraries. Can you explain the differences between a small library, medium, and large?
Yeah, the staffing is a key issue. I was just at a Library Directors Institute this year. It was wonderful. We had 3 days of training, one in Gettysburg State College and then in Hershey. And the majority of the librarians that were there were from very small libraries with very small budgets. And so they might only have 2 people working with them. And they're kind of like family. They're very small, and they know everybody, and they know everything about everyone in the town. So those have their unique challenges in that how do you get people to do new things when they're used to doing it the same way all the time? My first job was managing a school library, and it was very large. There were 1,500 students in 2 grades, in 7th and 8th grade at Kettering Middle School in Prince George's County, Maryland. Then I worked in Lansdale as their public library director, and our population was about 16,000, so it was a small-sized library. And we had big challenges. The first thing we had to do was automate the collection. So we had to train everyone that had never used computers before to automate the collection and then be able to check in and out using the system, which actually went over really well and was great for the community. At that point, I was doing a lot of the programming myself. I was the reference librarian, the programming librarian, everything but the children's librarian who we had part-time. So I had to grow the budget to get the staffing I needed. So I grew it to the point where we could get a full-time children's librarian, that we could get a full-time reference librarian, have other reference librarian hours, and have more time to be scheduling programming and get those kind of funds that we needed. And coming here to the Wissahickon Valley Public Library, they were lucky enough to have a real estate tax for the library that provided better funding. But in order to run this library with the circulation we have 45 staff members, but we have 70 volunteers. So the management needed to run that many people, and these aren't people doing shelving. They are processing books. They're checking books in and out. They're doing programs. They're delivering books. It is amazing what we can do with their help. So it really takes it up a notch when you have to manage that many people. So now you need a volunteer coordinator. You need a circulation coordinator. You need a head of the reference department, a head of technology. You need technology members on staff. So it's a lot more challenging in that there's a lot more managing. So finding the time to do the things that you need to do. So it's all about organization and getting those people together and hiring the right staff.
Over the course of your career in library management, has there been any changes in management styles, technology, things like that?
Sure. I think we're all used to going into a library when we were a child and hearing shh. So it was always supposed to be a quiet, super quiet place. You probably were yelled at as a child when you were in the library and getting around. So I think the style of the library has changed a lot. As you become more of a community-focused type library, it's going to be a more active social kind of place. So managing an active social kind of place is a little different too, because you're hiring staff that's really good with customer service. Before, say when we were kids, what people expected of the workers at the library might be different too. Right now, everything's immediate gratification. You can get it with your phone, and we're so pleased to be able to offer that. If you want to download a book, you can pick up your phone and download it right to your device. You don't need to come into the library. So that's pretty instant gratification, but that's kind of what they expect and the technology level of the staff members. So that's what's really challenging, is that the management, the changing of the management is really about adding that technology to it, because things have sped up.
You've had such a successful career in library management. What advice can you give other employees or library managers who are just starting out, who may be struggling with the management of their libraries?
I actually would suggest joining other organizations. So for me, I've been on the board of McLink and the Bucksmont Collaborative and the HSLC and like Rotary, Kiwanis, a lot of organizations like that. And they taught me great things about working with boards. So if you're a library director, chances are you have a board that are your bosses. It really teaches you how that relationship should work, what things you do, what things you don't do, what the roles are of the board members, what your role is as a director. So it's great for that. You also see what's great about other organizations and what they do really well. They also often offer very inexpensive, if not free, continuing education that helps you. So, and getting to know, and kind of the key piece for me too, is you really get to know the members of your community, and those are the people you want to work with. So you can't just walk up to someone and say, hey, I want to work with you. You end up getting to know them a little bit, and then a project pops up and you're like, hey, do you want to work on that? And you already know them, and they just pop in your mind, and then you call them, and then it works out really well. So it's the best way to get to know. A lot of times people get isolated in their buildings and they don't go out, and you're not going to be able to connect with your community or those other people that are trying to help your community if you don't get out of the office. So I'd suggest joining other boards and other nonprofit groups.
So networking is
Absolutely.
essential.
Absolutely.
So if our viewers would like to help out with the library, how can they get in contact with you?
You can contact us at the main library, which is 650 Skipack Pike in Bluebell, or at our Ambler branch, which is 209 Race Street in Ambler. You can call us at either of the numbers that you see listed here, 215-643-1320 or 215-646-1072, or you can email us at afrank@wvpl.org. We'd love to hear from you.
Well, it's been such an amazing time speaking with you and learning about the different aspects of library management as well as the progression of libraries over the years. So thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you.
Again, I'm Kearni Warren, and thank you for watching another installment of the Library Management Institute series.